Hi, I'm Grant, and in this introductory video, I hope to provide you with some basic operational training that should enable you to start using Flame in approximately 14 minutes. With this goal in mind, I'll be covering 5 basic stages of working in Flame: project setup, media import, basic editing, basic effects, and exporting. When you launch Flame for the first time, you will get the welcome screen where you can browse the latest features, introductory basics, as well as access the online Flame resources. You can close this window and you'll see the Flame startup screen. So before you start any work, you need to set up a user and a project. Creating a user profile defines the way you like to work, as well as access and customize any keyboard shortcuts. Next, you create a project that contains all your settings relevant to your production. For instance, you would give your project a name, and you would choose a default resolution and frame rate. Flame is resolution independent, but you need to give it a starting point for metadata and generated media. Speaking about generated media, you can also choose the type of media to create when rendering any VFX or grading in Flame. Just choose the media appropriate to your project, and Flame will handle the rest. Create your project and click the Start button to launch into Flame. Now, the first panel you'll see on the left is called the Media panel. This displays your project structure, working areas, sequences, and media. There are various levels of organization which we won't get into, but to import media, you need to switch to the Media Hub environment by choosing the tab at the bottom of the screen. Flame has 6 working environments for various production tasks, and the Media Hub takes care of all your import, export, and media management requirements. So to import source media, use the file browser to navigate to your file's location. Select a media file, and you can preview its properties in the preview window. You can also select multiple files or even an entire folder full of media. Flame uses the embedded properties of the selected media, but you can change most settings in the controls below. To import any media, just drag the clips into the Media panel and drop them onto a reel in the Reels group. This makes the media available for timeline editing and TimelineFX. What is important to understand is that caching is off by default. Flame is simply pointing to the original files on your drive, and there is no duplication or transcoding of media. This is indicated by the light grey icon on each source clip. To view your imported media, switch to the timeline environment. Now, there are multiple ways to view the same source clips. You've already seen them in the Media panel, but you can also work with the same clips displayed in a scrollable reel and as source timelines for each selected clip. To view a source clip in a player, switch the view mode from Reels to Player, and you can view your various clips by selecting them. You can play the clip by pressing the play button, or scrub the clip by dragging in the time bar. To view any clip full screen, you click the full screen button and use the same play and scrub functions to review the media. To return to the Flame interface, click the full screen button again. To edit source media into a timeline, you need to create a sequence clip. Right-click on the sequences reel in the Media panel and create a new sequence. The new sequence uses the project settings from earlier, and you can give it a name. Click Create and switch to the open sequence with the red indication on the Timeline tab. Now, there are multiple ways to edit into a timeline, but the easiest way is to drag and drop a source clip into the sequence. You can drag and drop as many source clips as you like, and you can also snap to the segments or the yellow positioner. To scroll the sequence left and right, drag the horizontal bar beneath the timeline. To zoom into the sequence, you click the same bar and drag upwards. And to fit the sequence to the window, you click the Home button. To review your edit, you scroll the positioner over the edit or press the play button to play the sequence. To jump the positioner to a different point in the sequence, just click the frames or timecode display below the segments. And to move the positioner between the transitions of the edit, press the up and down arrows on your keyboard. Now above the timeline window, you have your typical editorial controls. You have Insert, Overwrite and Replace Media buttons, as well as a pull-down menu to choose modes such as Trim, Slip, Slide or Select segments. For example, using the Trim mode with Ripple enabled, you can trim the sides of the segments to refine your edit. You can then review the sequence to see the changes. Another popular tool is to use the positioner as a blade to cut a segment. Just move the positioner to the desired frame and press the X keyboard shortcut. You can then delete the segment using the right-click menu or dragging the segment to the bottom of the interface. There are plenty of other editing tools to match your editorial style, including all the standard cut, copy and paste commands, which are available as keyboard shortcuts or right-click menus. Generally, if you're looking for a keyboard shortcut, you can look at the pull-down menus or button tooltips, or call up the keyboard shortcuts editor via the Flame main menu and search for the various function. Now, when it comes to visual effects and grading, Flame has a very deep toolset comprised of timeline-based and node-based effects tools. These are covered in detail on the Flame Learning channel. But applying a basic timeline effects is easy. Let's look at a few examples. Simply select a segment and click the Effects button. You have plenty of choices, but for the first example, choose a Blur Timeline Effects. The white line at the top of the segment indicates an unrendered effect, and in the effects bar, you can see which one it is. It's also possible to add multiple timeline effects to a segment. In the effects ribbon, you have the basic controls to adjust the effect. So you can change the blur type, adjust the amount, and even adjust some controls directly in the player. This can also be animated if you turn on Auto Key before making any adjustments. If you wanted to see all controls for this timeline effects, you can switch to the effects environment. So you are still working in the same sequence, but you are focusing on the timeline effects for the selected shot. The effects environment also has an interactive storyboard which allows you to navigate your sequence without switching between environments. This is quite efficient, but if you were to switch to the timeline environment, everything is still there because you're working on the same sequence. Now, you should be able to preview basic effects without rendering, but if your performance drops for any reason, you can render timeline effects in either environment, and Flame will generate new media based on your project's settings. A rendered timeline effects is indicated by the black line at the top of the segment, as well as the timeline effects in the effects bar. The second example of timeline effects is when you select a segment and switch to the effects environment without applying a timeline effects. In this case, the effects environment automatically loads the image timeline effects, which is an amazing multi-purpose tool for grading and VFX. By default, it starts off with Flame's comprehensive master grade for grading. So you can perform overall grading, as well as selective grading with keying, masking and tracking to develop the look of your image. There are so many tools to tackle any of your production needs. The list is huge, including pixel-based shaders, OFX support, and 3D compositing. Finally, to whet your appetite further for Flame, it is possible to stack up multiple segments in the sequence And using a combination of comp TimelineFX as well as a 2D transform TimelineFX, you can build up a multi-layer composite. Now, if layering video tracks does not give you enough flexibility over your composite, you can select your segments, and using the Effects button, you can convert these layers into a batch effects flow graph. From this point, you now have a visual map of how your composite is built, and all your creative VFX and grading tools are now reimagined as processing nodes. Depending on how you build and insert them into the node flow graph will give you the ultimate creative freedom to get great results. This and more detailed training videos can be found on the Flame Learning channel, and don't forget about our comprehensive online documentation. Once you have completed your sequence and shots in Flame, the final step is to export your deliverables. For that, you return to the Media Hub environment. In the file browser, navigate to the destination where you'd like to save the exported media. Next, grab the sequence clip from the Media panel and drop it into the file browser. This launches the export window, where you'll start off by choosing the type of export. There are also plenty of industry standard presets, and you can choose to export this in the foreground. If you needed to customize the export, you could open the advanced options and make any required changes. Once you're happy with your settings, click Export, and Flame will give you a progress window as the media is exported. Once that is done, the exported media will appear in the file browser, and your file is ready to be delivered. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this quick start to exploring Flame, and there are tons more features and advanced functionality to discover in your own time. Don't forget to visit and subscribe to the Flame Learning channel for the latest training, and click the bell to be notified for future videos. Thanks for watching, and congratulations on starting your editing, VFX and grading journey with Flame.